I am here. I am now. I am this moment. Without rose-tinted memories or ill-recalled history. No future promises nor belief in achievement of lifetime's ambition. For dreams, like dust, are too swiftly blown away. I am here. I am now. I am complete in this moment, which is why I may say to you now, without prejudice, I hate life. I watch you arrive without consideration, invitation or forewarning. I watch you squander opportunities after opportunities that are offered to you, so you may learn, grow, develop, and live. I watch in amazement as your fragile egos eke out a pitiful existence, grasping greedily to build a short-lived kingdom of wealth, until you ask, is there something more? Then you depart with the same lack of courtesy as you arrived, not even offering a final goodbye from your lips. Just temporary people living temporary lives. Yet amongst these wretched beings I see hope. Those who, although busy themselves, make time for others. They see the beauty and magic born in every sunrise and sunset, a wealth so great, not the richest man may possess, still free each day, for all may enjoy. And they know they are here, they are now, they are alive within each moment. By living they have life, by having they understand, by understanding they live. And because they live, I say now, without prejudice, I love life.
Some say the end of mankind is near. Some say that economic and financial turmoil is part of the process, along with global warming, warfare, and the spread of mass psychosis.
When there's no place you feel at home, and you think you'll be better off alone.
Children are prescribed drugs to keep them calm. The climate is changing all around us, while celebrities become our gods and materialism the new mantra.
When you think there's no reason to try, and you hate yourself and wanna die.
Is there a reason behind this modern day madness? Are our material lives making us truly content?
When you're filled Man's your enemy. Wanna go out and kill yourself.
The times are changing. There is no denying that we are all experiencing stress from the advancing technological storm that invades our lives more and more each day. But there is a ratio to it all, a rhyme and reason behind everything that we do and everything that affects us.
Depressed because you think you can't do your best. When you write yourself a stupid song to remind yourself that you forgot.
Like mad magicians seeking to rule the world, men of renown have fleetingly seen the epic nature of the ancient code in its alluring essence, but all too often they fall into an abyss of their own making, choosing the wrong side of the code. But today we too have missed the point in our everyday complacency. We choose to exist in a waking sleep. We spend time naming things and separating them, classifying endless parts and pieces without remembering the whole, the one, from which all things come. It needs no hatred nor warfare. It needs no drugs. It simply is. For you are the key to the code.
I think everybody deep down has a feeling for things like this. I think it's within us, like the sort of revelry and the sort of camaraderie and the pagan fun, dare I say.
The dance itself is pretty much as it used to be hundreds of years ago. One of the horns was carbon dated, right, to around about 1,000 years. It's something special to us, something that you don't let go for anything minor. You know, it's got to be a very, very fair catastrophe for it to finish. I can see this dance going on for another 400 years. The problem is the dance goes back before everything was kept down in writing. So, of course, the history was lost.
they're sort of they've sort of were there originally, and then we've sort of glossed and Christianised them over in an acceptable manner, but they're still there. And you say people don't know what they're doing. I think deep down they do. I think, you know, I think it's in the heart of us all, really, these sort of country things. I think we love it.
As far as we can tell, it's representative of the rutting season for deer. Now, whether this is the rutting season, I wouldn't know. I'm not that close to nature, but that's what the whole thing signifies.
For me, what comes out of this today is what those two ladies said, these two pagan ladies, is that it doesn't matter what they're doing. The feeling's right. It feels right. You know, something about that was right. We're in the middle of the countryside. There is a very natural feeling to what they're doing. They're becoming one of the animals, as if they're taking on some kind of zoomorphic ideal, and they're becoming a stag. I find that fascinating from a human psychological point of view, that people will get into a pattern, not just in their own lives, daily lives, you know, like a tennis player has to have a specific pattern, but they'll get into that pattern throughout their entire life. And within cultures will have that pattern too, within society, and they'll become traditions.
Yes.
And eventually, the whole reason why we're doing these patterns, when these traditions, folk tales, whatever it is that we're doing, why we're doing them in the first place is lost.
I'd go back to cave painting at the Toifeu in the Ariège, and a gentleman dressed in shamanistic costume with horns on his head. It's pure shamanism. Now, which country it came from prior to England is irrelevant. I doubt if the people who are performing it know its true origins or even care. They do it because it's always been done in their village. It's part of their tradition. It keeps their community together. It gives them a sense of identity. But its origins are in shamanism, on a search for spiritual enlightenment. And it has probably become empty of that now. But that's its roots.
Here we are in Bishop Monkton, up in North Yorkshire in England, and this is a place that's full of Templar lore and all kinds of strange religious things. And here, of course, we also have continuations of ancient pagan rituals, or rituals that we believe are pagan. And in the field at the side of me is a very special thing. It's a wicker man. Of course, one of the terrible things that we're told that the wicker men were used for was sacrifices to the gods, the ancient pagan gods, for fertility and all kinds of things, and that people would have been placed inside them and set fire to.
It's like we do have an inner knowing, but we don't actually know what it is we know. And our journey, to a large extent, is discovering actually what we already know.
Yeah.
But in the process of that, we discover, if you like, how things are not, in order to then eventually find out how things are.
Yeah.
And that kind of seems to be how my journey has been.
Yeah.
The Western world has found itself to be a mass of individuals with little comprehension that their own interaction with each other and existence itself actually has cause and effect. Individualization is indeed a part of the problem in the West. In the Orient, especially in India, we often find a very different reality. Here we find that dark and light are not separate entities, but actually coexistent realities. Just as their myriad of gods are not separate entities, but actually manifestations of the oneness of all things. They simply have different faces and forms, as mankind is a reflection of nature itself. In the East, man is part of nature, not subject to it or master of it. As a consequence, he is part of the collective universal soul, a walking, talking part of conscious nature. Much of the blame for the disassociation from nature in the West can be given to its modern form of Christianity and current version of science. To those in certain schools of esoteric thought, highly influenced by Eastern concepts, science was a method of understanding nature for the good of the whole or the one. It was a way simply of becoming conscious of and with nature itself. Today, we have more often than not reduced science to a means of classifying and empirically justifying what we can prove or not prove to be true, based on perspectives and calculations from a highly limited viewpoint. Christianity itself was reduced from its original Gnostic, Eastern concepts to an empirical law-making power to capitalize on and control others. Divide and conquer was the mantra, and so mankind's own mind was divided not just from one another's, but from the very concept of his oneness with nature. This division has left behind a stark emptiness, a void that simply cannot be filled with the materialism our modern-day society has replaced it with. The many faces of God, nature itself, cannot be replaced with the endless stream of Hollywood deities, no matter how hard we try. The world is at a critical point of crisis. People feel an impending doom, that time itself is moving too fast, rushing us headlong into bad choices and fewer alternatives. On one hand, we embrace the materialism and power games of the darker nature and accept that this will entail yet more denial of our true will, our true beings. On the other, we yearn to lose that fabricated self we have become accustomed to in order to discover a more real self, one that is directly connected to nature.
Until the Renaissance, historians believe that the world was a cycle, right? And that what went round came round. And then you get the idea, just past Renaissance period, of progression, of progress, that the world is progressing. My question is that correct? Because I'm not sure that it is. We have technological advances, we have technological discoveries, but are they necessarily progression? The fact that we can travel at 90 miles an hour, as opposed to walking at whatever it is, 5 miles an hour, is that progression? We can get to A and B quicker,
The world is a shorter place. We can go from here to Australia in whatever it is, 20 hours or something, by flying. But is that necessarily progress?
Can I tell you, I actually think that every single human being has a religious understanding, understands very quickly you treat your friends well or you don't have friends. You don't steal, you don't be dishonourable to them. You honour your mother and father or they'll batter the hell out of you. It could have been. And suddenly you realise that we all develop our Christian values, if you call them Christian values. Muslim wouldn't call them Christian values. But we all naturally develop this understanding of the best way to behave. I think the majority of juvenile crime is caused by people saying, but I'm not getting a reasonable slice of the cake for being a reasonable person. So I have got to do something else to scream, come and help me. Don't you see I'm here? I'm looking for help. And I think that's what most juvenile crime is. It's actually almost a plea for help and almost a kicking at not getting dealt the right cards.
The self we perceive as our own is in truth a self built up from layers of propaganda and mind control, from indoctrination and rules and laws made by others in order to create a more civilized and orderly society. This unseen force has evolved into a massive and unwieldy machine which traverses the world, gaining more ground every day. It is unstoppable only because we allow it to be so, to propagate within our minds and affect our daily lives.
We live in an era where we're obsessed by celebrity. We live in an era where everyone wants a route out of their ordinary lives, and people want a quick fix these days. I mean, the idea of learning a trade from your father or doing a 5-year apprenticeship's gone out of the window. People now want to go on Big Brother and become a celebrity overnight. People want to be a wag.
The ancient code is simple. It is so simple that it cannot be easily understood by the minds of those confused with the chatter of technology, materialism, and the false doctrines of controlling religions and organizations. There is only one way to fully realize and access the ancient code, and that is to free the mind completely of all things that lie above our inherent survival and natural being, to free our minds of the noise of the outside world that is suppressing our higher selves.
I honestly believe that once people start connecting with what they think and what they believe, once they start taking the more innocent point of view that their ancestors took, I think there is still hope for the survival of the human race. Because if they don't, we will poison ourselves off this planet eventually, I think.
Eternal truths were passed down from ancient times via Gnostics, Sufis, and other caretakers of ancient wisdom. These found a home in India and enveloped the East. They lived for millennia in Egypt. They survived Christianity's onslaught under the cloak of alchemy, and today it is time for mankind to rediscover these truths and reclaim the natural balance of body, mind, and spirit.
I think people are questioning the path to their own enlightenment more than they ever were. I was brought up a Christian, I was baptised in the church and all the rest of it and brought into it. But what I found was that the church wasn't enough anymore, up to after a certain point. I don't think any of the monotheistic faiths have any stranglehold on what is true and what is not. I don't think any of the polytheistic faiths either have any stranglehold on truth. Truth comes from within, and anyone that sets themselves up to be some sort of guru or messiah is, I think, sadly deluded, or they're on some sort of immense power trip. So I think the road to salvation is within each and every one of us, and we don't necessarily need someone conducting the band to get there.
Only by freeing the mind can the whole realization come through that we are part of nature, not separate from it. Only by understanding science via this intuition can we truly do science. If we overcomplicate nature with our words and devices, then we lose the path. Many so-called mathematical explanations for how nature works are said to be sick equations because they appear too complicated. Nature is not so complex. Instead, it is ratio built upon ratio, empowered by energy interacting at the same way on every level, whether particle or planetary sphere.
There is this very peculiar idea in religion that there is a God who is somehow outside of ourselves. Balderdash. There is a rhythm, if you want to call it, a power, whatever you want to call it, which perhaps started with Big Bang, maybe it started before Big Bang, I don't know. But that interconnects with absolutely everything. Now, our world, all the other worlds, all the planets, all the universes, parallel universes, whatever there may be, every blade of grass, every animal is interconnected in some way, shape or form. And if you want to call the overall thing God, fine. But God is part of us, we're part of God. So is he part of my cat. So is he, he's even part of the bricks. I mean, even if you make a brick of something, that brick actually has an energy level.
Hermann Hesse, the Nobel Prize-winning author, said, "It is wrong to think that nature is the enemy of man, something to be conquered. Rather, we should look upon nature as a mother and should peaceably surrender ourselves to it. If we take that attitude, we will simply feel that we are returning to the universe as all other things do, all animals and all plants. We are all just infinitesimal parts of the whole. It is absurd to rebel. We must deliver ourselves to the great current." This current that Hess speaks of is key to understanding our part in the whole. We are beings of energy, empowered by energy brought into life from the spark of procreation, the physical union of opposites. Even greater psychological empowerment comes from the same spark and pattern of nature mirrored in the mind. It is the Gnostic and Eastern concept of uniting the dark and light, the left and right, within our very minds. Not being divided, but being whole within ourselves and truly and emotionally connecting thereafter to the wholeness of nature itself, because we will have achieved what nature itself perpetually seeks: balance and union. It is clear that the dominating Western powers have promulgated a divisive concept of the persona, or individualities, causing a sickness in our society in the way we see our world and our existence. We view all things as separate, and thus we classify them as such, creating an ever-expanding divide. Society, science, philosophy, and everything else becomes competitive instead of united. Even with the creation of religions and varied belief systems, from whatever perspective, we distance ourselves from each other even further. And yet nature has remained the same. Our nature is still within us, still lurking beneath these human creations, awaiting discovery like a lost treasure. This is the true quest for the Holy Grail. This is the real code that we need to break. It is the code of our very own mindsets, and we are the key. In fact, you are the key to the code.
Magic isn't just fairy tale. It isn't just make-believe. It isn't just something, oh, I'll think and this will happen. Oh, invest enough thought power, enough belief structure into it, enough quantum physics, wow. Oh, 99 of us believe in it, and suddenly the 100th monkey comes along and badoomf, there it is. It's saying that we have an idea, we have a thought, we have an idea of how in the real world we can make that happen, and we do it. This is why myth is important, that's why fable's important, legend's important, because it contains the truth. The second you allow it to become a fairy tale, you've lost the inner kernel of truth. It's lost its message, it's lost its medium, it's gone.
For the vast majority, these truths will not reveal themselves through words, which are often misleading and misunderstood, unless those words depict a symbolic journey or quest.
Scientists were very often God-fearing men and believed that what they were doing was unraveling God's onion to try and explain how the world works for the greater glorification of God.
For some, ratio and mathematics have revealed great esoteric secrets. For others, it is music, emotion, experience, chance meetings and observation, perhaps even a synchronicity. In all respects, these are early forms of symbols. Our ancestors observed the world of nature, both the external physical state and the internal nature of man. They did not write down words to express their understanding. Instead, they expressed and interpreted via symbolic language, creating musical forms which mirrored the observable frequencies and waveforms in nature, and images that had multi-layered meanings, such as those of Egypt.
All the sacred sites throughout antiquity up to the present resonate at a particular frequency.
By observing what has been placed for us upon the landscape, in great temples, in ancient monuments, in music, even underlying meanings hidden in fables, we can begin to unlock the code and thereby begin to free our own mind of the constraints of modern living.
It is beyond thought, it is beyond words, but there is a purpose to it.
In the Sufi tradition, which you have mentioned so many times with such great respect, they say, go home and polish your hearts. Free it of impurities, free it of malice, free it of envy, so that you can reflect love, unconditional love. It is the answer to being loved. It is the answer to being attacked. You reflect love. It's about service.
The temple is a place that symbolized the universe, both physically and spiritually. It was a place where all things were unified, a place where we were meant to gain understanding and were reminded of this principle, that we are all, and all is in us. That in the moment we enter a symbolic place, we were to remember this fact. This is why temples, churches, and places of worship include the symbols of nature, of the great cycles of time, and our place in it.
You cannot separate out gnosis, spirituality, and the Grail quest, for example. They are all descriptions of exactly the same process.
First of all, let me say that the Da Vinci Code, in my opinion, is complete and utter hogwash. It goes a long, long way back. You've got to go right back to Sumeria, Babylon. You've got to go into the Egyptian thoughts, etc., because the whole thing is all tied up.
The modern concept of the Grail, the modern concept of the Grail as a bloodline of Jesus, of Mary, and so forth, is in reality, I believe, an illusion. It's a way of taking our mind, taking our focus away from the truth, and the truth, the central truth, is that we are the Grail. We are the people who are experiencing, we are the people who are having this Gnostic experience that isn't just about knowing, it isn't just about understanding, it isn't just about education and being told, it's about becoming, being the journey, being the truth, being your truth, being your journey, being yourself, if you like, your higher self, your God self, your King self.
The story of the Holy Grail is one of the greatest of symbolic tales. It has been reinterpreted thousands of times, mostly with modern eyes. The Grail stories we have heard originated hundreds of years ago. We have a murky concept that they originated in some dark pagan, even medieval past. There is, however, evidence that they derived originally from Gnostic concepts with links to Indian and Egyptian myths. Whatever the truth, it appears that they speak of nature and reunification. The Grail is the symbol of the ultimate goal. It contains the energy or blood of the one who was in tune with the divine, which was nature, the essence of life as we know it. For God is within us all, as both the Christians, Muslims, and other religions believe. We must all seek the Grail, for this is the paramount quest. But we must ask the right questions of it, to prove that our mind has been perfected and purified of unnatural desires, that we are ready to receive an answer, and that we will be responsible with the knowledge if given a glimpse of it. But we must not ask questions of it that reflect our world of materialism, but instead seek to simply connect with it for what it is. Herein lies the great truth to connecting with the Atman, or the center of all, a thing that has no beginning and no end, something powerful beyond our wildest imaginations, something that just is. The great Sphinx of Egypt stares out at the world and the stars above it eternally, pristinely gazing into infinity, into the abyss. Its message is there for all who seek. Yet so many cannot abandon the false selves they have in fact helped to create, to peel back the layers of conditioning to see the simple truth perpetually offered by this ancient monument. In our material world, our eyes and thoughts are too often drawn toward the gold and jewels of the chalice. Yet we cannot see what resides within. Whom does it serve, one might ask? It serves the one who serves it.
Once you've found that point of connection in yourself, where you are part of nature, part of the world around you, and it is part of you, then no secret, no quantum physics, quantum spirituality can get anywhere near that point of unique connection, because you've found yourself and you've found your own God within yourself.
The basis of everything that we do has to do with rhythm. The music that we like has to do with how we were attuned to probably the first sets of music that we were introduced to. The problem is that we are interrupting the natural rhythms of nature with all sorts of other rhythms. You know, we have these awful sirens on police cars, and we have engines which bang up and down when they're making, doing the road and so on. All of these things interrupt the natural rhythm.
They'll chop your heads off.
The whole of our environment has changed because we have got all these various machines which make all sorts of noises, but they're actually interfering with our natural rhythm. You can't actually get rid of the energy. All you can do is change it into something else. So you can change sound into heat or something else, but you can't get rid of it. And this is the whole point about rhythms. We can't get rid of the rhythms that exist, but we can change them.
This energy or blood of the Grail is within us all, whether man, woman, or child. The problem has always been that we are simply not aware of it. Even when the infamous Gospel of Thomas was written, this was true, and in the words of the one they identified as the Christ, we can see this truth. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Nature can serve you and nature can kill you physically and psychologically. Our question today has to be, are we willing to be saved by ourselves? Or are we perfectly happy to absolve ourselves of responsibility and meander along blaming others for our woes and misfortunes, for the things we seemingly cannot bring ourselves to achieve? These are the words of a true Savior, words that come from and speak to our inner being, which knows that these words speak of spiritual or psychological fulfillment and not always physical and financial safety. The wind will indeed blow us in every direction, but how will we set our sail?
Put your hands off.
If I want to know what the truth is, I have to live truthfully. And as long as I live as truthful to myself and to others, then I'm like in the vibration of truth.
That is behind the whole thing, and that is within each one of us. And it is uncovering our ability to communicate with the divine within ourselves.
If you didn't have antibiotics, if you didn't have the method of, surgery and so on, how could you cure someone's illnesses? And of course the answer is, you tried to do this by rhythm, in one form or another. And this is why the shamans dance around the bodies to try and cure them, right? They're trying to create an energy pattern which draws up the bad energy and gets rid of it.
So to me, what spirituality means is the understanding that everything is connected, that we're all one and we are all connected, and following a spiritual pathway, again, is with that awareness and with that understanding is naturally going to breed compassion and caring.
These truths will not necessarily enable you to get rich quick or empower you to be the greatest leader of men. This is not a secret or quantum method of bettering your fellow man. These are truths, plain and simple. Nature is nature. It breeds, it nurtures, it grows, it kills and dies. It is dark and light, as two are we. If you ask for great material riches of the Grail, you will most likely be ignored. If you are purified and fortunate enough to be given the message of the Grail, you will, however, have riches beyond your wildest dreams. But what stops us seeing these truths? The same thing that enables us to be aware of them: consciousness. This is a truth that we must confront. That is the individual consciousness which stops the unconscious and therefore natural self to be revealed. We do have to act consciously to see the hidden world of truth, but the ultimate paradox is that we have to deny the conscious self, which has become loaded with materialism and oversaturated with endless streams of modern-day stimulus. We have to cast off the old self and be born anew to what we really are, natural beings in a natural universe, mirroring the beauty and ratio of its energy and frequency in so many ways. Understanding or being enlightened to this energy enables us to interact better with the energy of everything else around us. We must think with our hearts, our very center, our intuitive self.
I love life.
We still need to seek that perfect frequency, that golden frequency, if you like, that holy frequency, that special frequency that is the frequency of the universe, that is the frequency of the world, that is our perfect frequency that Da Vinci was trying to establish in the Vitruvian Man to say this is where we're going.
So how to begin? How do we release ourselves of the world that does not make us truly happy within? The first question has to be, are you ready?
You tell me what you dream. I'll tell you who you are.
Unless man is willing to accept that the way in which he has organized his mind and society is flawed, then we have no starting point. Ask yourself, am I truly happy? Do I improve my family and friends with my thoughts, words, and deeds? Do I contribute to my society? Or am I missing something altogether? Should we believe all that we are told by those who we assume are qualified to lead? If you have asked these questions in truth and honesty, and you wish to proceed to unlock your inner self and discover nature, then you are on the Grail quest. You must begin by destroying your gods. All through life, we have been told that those with the most money and power are superior to us, and to our shame, we have accepted these pretenses. We have been told that icons of religion held literal truths, that walking on water was a literal miracle, and so we've had to bend our minds to unnatural things. This has taken us from the path of nature, the underlying current of all that is, to fixate on things that we are told occurred that are wholly unnatural.
You tell me what you dream.
The West has believed the Da Vinci Code fiction that Christ married Mary Magdalene simply from a failure to see the symbolic language of these concepts, that the opposites must unite and balance for the true energy or blood to continue in its beautiful cycle. So many have missed the point entirely because we are no longer in tune with it. Everything must be questioned, and every god of Hollywood must be in their proportional place within your mind. All men are men, and all women women. Nothing more, nothing less, no matter the title bestowed. Whether we call them highness, pope, or celebrity, these titles are human errors of judgment. A man who calls himself wise has much to learn. Seek the king within you, not without. Do not look to others to fulfill your natural desires or absolve yourself of all and any responsibility. Accept your responsibility, and with the energy of the force of nature within you, rise above the dark desires of greed, envy, and hate towards the light or others. Mirror nature. We wake in the light and we have no part in the dark. Once we have absolved our minds with regard to our desire for gods and misleading messiahs, we will be free of the desire to emulate them, and so we can turn to higher and higher things. To pursue our own evolution, to become the things we imagine, and to achieve them in the physical world. The time is now to go outside and observe nature in order to understand the inner nature of all living things. You will see that nature itself, whether a tree, a dog, a cat, a bird, does not live its life according to what happened yesterday or what may happen tomorrow. It simply lives now. If we constantly worry and obsess on what has happened before, then we are literally leading and instructing our imaginations to take over and feed us an endless list of negative assumptions about our future. Understanding this part of our nature enables us to recognize that these are false dialogues within the mind. These thoughts need to be balanced and kept in check. We need to release and embrace our true nature and live in the now. If we live now, according to the beautiful ratios, rhythms, and patterns of nature, with awareness, respect, strength, and a will that is true to ourselves, then we shall create a beautiful nature for ourselves and others. Is there magic in the code? The true power of understanding nature for us is no different than seen by our ancestors. It was magical to be able to read a pack or herd, to predict the seasons, to know exactly what to say or do for a loved one at the right time. But more than that, it was ultimately fulfilling. Such connection to nature that only openness can bring releases an energy so profound that there is no method of expressing it with words. This sense of unification enlightens the soul, it brightens the day, it makes the night a sound sleep. It gladdens the heart, for it reaches to the very center of ourselves. It reconnects nature with nature, and we become conscious of it, appreciating its eternal power. Nature holds the greatest secret we can ever behold or learn, and we must wield it with love. Today our science is coming full circle and revealing to us that we are indeed part of the whole. For well over 100 years, science has reduced all that we have observed into names and categories and experimented with them as if they themselves were gods. Men did not try to live with the world. They tried to use it for their own ends, by ignorant ambition seeking to tame it, control it, to no true avail. Now that our knowledge is finally beginning to reveal the ancient code yet again, will we listen and learn?
You tell me what you dream. I'll tell you who you are. Sometimes you'll find me wishing that this whole world would listen.
When there's no place you feel at home, and you think you'll be better off alone. When you think there's no reason to try, and you hate yourself and want to die.
Now, I've been watching a spider only these last few weeks. I built a spider's web outside my window in my office, and I've been watching. He caught a moth the other day, or the web caught the moth, and he manhandled, or spider handled this moth that size, and the spider's the size of the end of the finger, and this moth, it manhandled, the spider handled it, I should say, dragged it up the web over ages and ages and ages until he got it in the corner of the window, and there started to suck the innards out of it and devour it. Now, I can't see that creature has got any less intelligence than a human being. But you say, but you can't cram that much intelligence into a creature that big. I don't think we're another half of it. No. I really don't. I think science will help us to find that. Now, that's wonderful science.
Yeah. We're at Croxton Abbey, which is very close to Abbots Bromley, where we saw the horn dance. And this is a Cistercian monastery, or abbey. And we're actually stood in what is, we've just seen, is the head of the abbey. 5 circles on top of the cross. 5 being, of course, head. And within this area we have burials, so the people have been buried in the head of the cross, facing towards the east, the land of the rising sun. So a very Egyptian thing to do, of course, and the feet are facing towards the east.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting
figure.
Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of things, although Henry VIII and his mob did destroy a lot of the symbolism of this place, we can still find codes even within these places today. Which, of course, relates entirely back to nature. You know, you have to wonder who was in it. You know, what did he know? What back in the 13th, 11th, 12th centuries did this man know? What knowledge did he have that made it so that he was here at the pinnacle of the head? He's not just one of the group, he is the one right at the top of the head. This is the guy. And unfortunately, you know, whatever remains of him has now gone back into the earth from whence he came. You know, his whole life may have been involved in gaining knowledge and becoming sacred in himself, but he's actually gone back into the earth, the most sacred thing. And this very grass and this ground here still has part of him in it.
It becomes symbolic, doesn't it?
He is here, still.
His code, his genetic code, his being is there.
The ancient code is right in the old.
Right down there, get right in there. Have
Come
a
and
look.
look at this old.
Look in here. So we're talking about sacred geometry, a sacred building, a sacred space designed around specific shape, specific form, which in itself is ratio, which in itself is a function of frequency, set into the landscape, part of the landscape, and in this we still have, as you were saying, this evidence that survived the dissolution.
This is a very sacred spot, very sacred in number and ratio.
If you can imagine this as a building, these would have been walls just here, just there. This wouldn't be just kind of like, oh, we'll walk around it. It's right there, it's right in your way. And it's like you say, it's at the head of the church, and just the other side, just there would have been the altar, the place of worship.
This is almost on the other side.
Yeah, because you've got your rood screen just there.
Yeah. And the other side, of course, is the land of the sun.
Now, the Australians, a very warm country, they love their sun, they love their activities and their sports and getting out and about, right? And so in Australia, they really enjoy the sun, or they did. Now they're petrified of it. We have scared them to death because there might be or might not be a layer of ozone, which is there like some lead roof protecting them from the sun or not protecting them from the sun. But it isn't like a lead roof. It's very flimsy at best, and there's bound to be holes down here. But what the Australians did is stop their kids going on the beach. Completely, almost. Isn't that terrible? When, we need our vitamin D, which we get from the sun. It's part of life. My wife always, it's brighter as soon as the sun comes out. We live in Great Britain, so it doesn't happen very often. But she's very bright as soon as the sun comes out, much brighter. And she's always bright. Okay. So we're now stopping our kids soaking up a bit of sun. By all means, butter up. By all means, protect yourself a little bit, because there's nothing worse than a burnt skin. And when you see lobster-red people on holiday, you feel sorry for them, but you also feel what idiots to have got in that state. Okay. They started selling sun cream in Australia like you wouldn't believe. And then suddenly they found the incidence of skin cancer was going up and up and up and up, compared to what it had been when they hadn't been scared. And we've now found that the skin cancer was caused by the sun creams. So you see, the human race has developed on Earth and is really very comfortable on Earth. We're the best, most efficient species. We've been so successful in managing the way we live on Earth. Our life expectancy is growing up, everything. We're very commendable. But so many other animals and creatures like ants and beetles and things like this have all done very, very well and all fare very well on Earth. But we've done very well. And we've done very well because we have an ambience with nature and an ambience with the natural world. What science today is doing is throwing us at different directions off this sensible path time and time again, and scaring us witless of the problems with living on Earth, where in actual fact it's very natural for us to do it. And anything that nature throws at us is either good for us, or if it's bad for us, it's usually bright coloured. So you can tell it's got something about it. And our own instincts, which we pass on, understand. We don't eat poisonous things because we don't help ourselves to it. So there's this natural balance. Right from Dalton, this natural balance of life on Earth, this natural ambience between animals and plants, all of it is so beautiful. You can't live your life in this beautiful world, the beautiful chances we've got, if at every turn we're scared that we'll even death by what the scientists or the media are telling us, and especially if it's erroneous in the first place. It's a tragedy.
As a mathematician and as a musician, I guess I tend to see nature in waveforms, and that expresses in many, many different ways. It is sound. Sound is beyond just music. It's beyond just sound as in the things we hear. Sound is, funnily enough, also the things we don't hear. It's the kind of gap in between which gives us the spacing of the sounds, and that's really, really important from a musical point of view, and also from a mathematical point of view, because that gives us the ratio, it gives us the flow, it describes numerically, it describes in pattern everything. And once we're into mathematics, once we're into ratio, we're into a way that we can describe pretty much every sense, because senses are a way of senses are light, senses are sound, senses are touch, are pressure, are feel, they're magnetic, if you like, they're gravitation, and all of these find their kind of meeting point in terms of frequency, because frequency or ratio is the bit that allows you to turn one thing into another thing. It's the right angle, if you like, between electricity and magnetism, and that, to me, is key, both in terms of the mathematical element, the scientific element, and in terms of the musical, esoterical element, because once we go back into proportion, we're then talking of things like geometry, we're talking about golden mean, we're talking about these structures that artists, that musicians, that anyone who deals with the beauty, if you like, the inner beauty, the outer beauty of the world, that's what they're describing, that's what they're kind of seeking, that's what they're finding, these amazing kind of proportions, the proportions of nature, the proportions of being, the proportions of ourselves.
Hush, little dreamer, I know you are sleeping. Hush, little child, I know you are dreaming. Far away places, magical land, enchanted forests and silver white sands. Reach for a rainbow to hold in your hands. Sleep, 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 go to sleep. Hush, little dreamer, the nighttime is falling. Hush, little star child, the ancients are calling to share all their stories that they have to tell. Angels and fairy folk know you so well. Over the moonbeams, casting their spells. Sleep, 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 go to sleep. Can you see them? Can you touch them? Keeping you safe as you journey your way to the light. Can you hear them? Can you touch them? Keeping you safe as you journey your way to the night. Hush, little dreamer, I know you are sleeping. Hush, little child, I know you are dreaming. Far away places, magical lands, enchanted forests and silver white sands. Reach for a rainbow to hold in your hands. Sleep.